I really can. Anyway, I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 13th Finance Committee meeting, and as usual, Louise, we will start off with the roll call.
Mayor Darby?
Here.
Vice Mayor Whitman?
Here and on time.
Greg Hunt?
Here.
Jeff Rice? Alan?
Here.
Is Jeff coming? Does anybody know?
He's coming right up the path, I think.
Oh, here he is, okay. So, with that, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So the next item on the agenda, we'll put down Jeff, or even though he's late, we'll put him down as being here.
Thank you. Apologize.
The
I
next
think I can
item
take this seat out. So you don't feel bad.
is public comments. Are there any public comments? Well, hearing none, we'll go to the regular agenda. So I would like a motion to review and approve the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting on April 11th. Are there any changes or amendments?
Are they provided?
Yes.
They are.
It's in your packet.
Yeah.
They were in what was sent out.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're printed out here. Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Let me just confirm, Jeff, you have the motion, and Alan, you second?
I made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion.
Yeah. I just wanted everybody to know that I read it.
And Jeff, you seconded?
I second.
Make sure I
So
get them all.
the next item, Louise, is a review of the current investment portfolio.
I'm just giving this item to the committee as part of our standard agenda package for you to know where we are on the current investment. Nothing has changes. The City Council did approve a new investment policy for this fiscal year 2012, and no significant change at all. And we are continuing our investment strategy with Cutwater, trying to be conservative at the same time. Based on Cutwater's recommendation, we are going out a little bit longer now in duration, trying to capitalize on some of the return. So we may be working on that portfolio to go a little bit long term, but still trying to keep in mind the town's objective. And with today's investment market and the economic condition, it is a difficult time to kind of know how to best invest your town fund. So we are continuing to follow that right.
Okay.
You'll see returns here on the second page. The 2-year note at, for the month, 4.24. Is that right?
Good. Put my money in there.
You are on page 4.
No, page 2. Of your
4.2?
2 pages.
Yes, 4.2.
The second page. Turn it over.
Okay, yeah. That is for a T-note. A 2-year T-note is 4.24 for the month. Yeah, that's what they're...
I don't believe that. There's no way. 2-year yields are under 2%.
But when was that? When was that note taken out?
No, this is not a note. This is just showing the market history, the benchmark of the market of the Treasury. This is not a reflection of our investment. This is just a benchmark comparison.
To what? To what?
This,
U.S. Treasuries?
You mean
no, this is the Treasury.
but our 2-year T-notes now yielding 4.24, which is more than what the 10-year.
Just for 1 month.
No way.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I'll get my computer up. There's no way. The yields on Treasuries right now are under 2%.
It's not the yield. It's
Rose,
This is the way
why don't you come on and sit up here? Okay.
There's a pack up here if you want one.
Where did you get that information?
This report is produced by Cutwater. They did they.
Well, those last 2 lines, you got 4.24 and 26.73, so something's screwed.
Okay. I will check with them.
0.24%. And on the second page it says,
And again, the second page is based on fair value. It's not based on cost basis. But let me look into that, and I will send a response to the committee by email.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're looking at the first page, I'm looking at the second page, under,
I noticed that the two pages say different numbers for the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah,
First page says 0.24%, which sounds about right.
yeah. The first page is based on cost basis, and the second page is based on fair market value.
So in other words, the note value today is 4.24%
On-
greater
on-
than it
on
was the
August
last
thir-
time.
on
I
August
can
31st.
understand that
Yeah.
if we bought it right.
Yeah,
explain it to me,
Huh?
if you do what?
Well, I mean, it's not a yield, 4.24%, it's current value.
Well,
Well, I'd like somebody to explain it to me
Yeah.
after the meeting, it's not
Yes.
important to do it
yeah,
now.
I will send out email. Okay.
And the other thing is, you know, we have this challenge, we're not investing in AAA rated securities.
In terms of the government federal instrument, our investment policy does not specify that we have to be AAA, which we don't have that restriction. And because the federal, even though Standard & Poor's had downgraded the U.S. security, but we are, the agency looked at continue to be backed by the U.S. government. And our investment policy does allow for investment in federal instrument without a restriction on whether they have to be AA or AAA.
Can we invest in AAA securities, non-U.S.?
I believe the investment policy saying that it will be federal instrument, but I have to check to see if it will allow for anything out of this.
Because I'm looking at Australia AAA money markets are at 3%.
I think we may have some legal restriction on going
You got-
overseas
you got a
because you have the currency risk.
Well, you do have a risk of currency, but you can hedge against it a little bit.
I mean, the Australian currency's been going up like crazy, but it could also fall, so
Yeah.
But if you put a hedge underneath it, you protect it on the downside.
possibly, yeah.
So I think I'm gonna do it personally, but I haven't done it yet,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay, are there any other comments on this item 3 or 4? Okay, the next item is the main subject today, and John Danielson is going to review the revised general fund budget, or at least a draft of the general fund budget, which is, we've waited this long because clearly there were some things that had to happen, such as the layoff of the people, and that was delayed because of the court PRO, and now that that's been at least cleared temporarily for a while, John has put together a new budget. So John, this is your show.
Let me make some opening comments, Mayor, and committee members, and then I'll turn it over to Louise for some of the detail. But what I would like the committee to, what I'd like to share with the committee at this point is that you'll see that our budget is dramatically better than it was previously.
Well, I couldn't figure that out. I was trying to figure out where you see that, because I looked on computer, I didn't print it out. But what I saw didn't look that much different, so I was trying to figure out what I missed.
Well, there's a couple of factors in there that are showing the probably the more accurate numbers, because it's a 6-month budget, so we're not getting the benefits of 12 months worth of savings. We're seeing 6 months worth of savings. You'll recall that we had estimated that we were somewhere in the 855,000 short the prior fiscal year. Now we're just a little under 400,000 with a fully loaded budget there and things that. And by the way, I'd like to introduce, for those who haven't met, this is our new Chief of Police, Ed Flint, who's got some budget requests in here that he's going to be describing to you if you have questions about it. Taking a real hard look at properly replacing equipment, getting rid of surplus equipment, and getting us up to legal standards for 2013 on some of our communications equipment. So even though we're not fully realizing 12 months, we've made a huge step in the right direction to begin to close the budget gap. We've actually, Ed has hired 1 new police officer, I believe, and filled 1 vacancy, so we should see some real benefits of that in some of our overtime. We're still down a couple of positions, and we're looking at what our position is going to be on that and our ability to hire. Obviously, the layoffs are not the end of the story. You know, we're now moving into a phase where we're assessing what the ongoing shortfall is, which creates an unsustainability. So our next phase will begin to talk with the unions and talk with the employees about what concessions we're going to need to do to further close that gap. But we're hoping to open up that discussion soon with the Finance Committee's blessing on that to move forward. But it is a substantially better position than we were in just only 6 months ago.
Louise, could I ask you if maybe I missed it, but the possible payments to Allied Waste and to Recology, are they in here?
No.
I mean, they could represent another $600,000, $700,000.
Currently, I don't have the number, and I know that I think the city manager had mentioned yesterday it's not included in here because we need to look at it is the general fund obligation, how we're going to budget for it, and whether the deficit or the liability out there can be amortized for the rate that we charge our customer, or it's going to be a general fund liability, then we would need to look at it. But at the present time, I have not given any firm number on what that liability
I mean, whatever it is, however we pay for it, even if we don't pay for it all this year,
right.
there's obviously high probability. There's going to be, if you look at the cash amount,
Right.
Allied Waste says we owe them $385,000. Hopefully we can negotiate that down. The way that we've charged the residents for their trash clearly isn't enough to cover the year, so that's going to be another, maybe, I don't know, $300,000-$400,000. Now, it needn't all be paid necessarily this year, but it's a liability,
Right.
so it's somehow got to be reflected.
Right.
I mean, it almost is an accrual, you might say.
And from an audit standpoint, in order for the town to accrue that on the audited financial statement, the liability has to be, first is the town's liability clearly saying that general fund is responsible. Second is we have to have the liability have to be like you're looking at possibility and whether it's probable and how it's measurable. Once that has been determined, yes, the auditor would allow that to be an
And
audit.
I think it's highly probable, I don't know the number, but I think it's highly probable we're going to owe these people
Yeah.
a substantial amount. Okay,
So we should figure out the right way to book that
yeah.
and to show it as a liability. Although we're just on kind of an order of magnitude right now, we don't really know what that number is, but it's likely to be substantial.
I mean, if we were looking at it all this year, our losses would go up by a substantial amount.
Well, yeah, I think it needs to go, at least part of it needs to go against the general fund, because when we had the gain against the trash, that went into the general fund and the general fund spent it. So I think it's double taxation, so to speak, if we say, well, wait a second, the town's not going to cover that. So personally, that's my view, and of course I expressed that at several council meetings. So, you know, the town did get a gain and then claimed success in growing the fund and then went and spent it on something. So, and then they can't find it. But,
It went in the general fund and it was spent there?
yeah.
Well, isn't it in the reserve, the general reserve?
Well, it'd be left in the, you could say take it out of the reserve. So that's why I'm saying take it out of the reserve. The town needs to cover it. You can't ask the residents to pay for it again. No.
Right. I think if the council want to go in that direction, a formal report to the council outlining the town's obligation, the amount of liability, I think that make it a real liability on the town's behalf. Then I think the auditor has some basis to book the entry, to allow the entry to be booked.
So I think, perhaps, and obviously, you know, in October, starting next month, we're going to need to start looking at the rates again, because obviously we need to further adjust them because we didn't fully cover them this past time. Plus we'll have clarity, I guess, next week or 2 weeks with regards to what Allied is supposed to say according to what their schedule. But you know, the bottom line, at least for me, is I think that we need to bring something forward to the council, and we take the rates that we've got. We can verify the number of the charges that we're getting. We can get that information from Recology in our subcommittee that, that I work with Jerry and John on. And we can say this is what the shortfall is going to be, and then determine how much of it should be borne by an upfront rate adjustment, and how much comes out of the general fund, which has to be at least equal to the amount that went into the general fund, which I think was, if I remember right,
200 and something.
several $100,000.
220,000.
Yeah. So it's going to cover essentially the allied portion. So, but anyway, but yes, and I think that does need to show that we're making an adjustment.
Anyway, the only point I was trying to make is, on a P&L basis, on a cash basis, any losses we're showing here, we're already showing losses, are going to go up, whatever way we handle it. So I think more negotiating, John, definitely in the cards.
Well, and that's what I'd like to leave you before I turn it over to the technical side here, is I think we've made really significant strides in bringing our budget into better alignment, but as you go through this, you'll see there's still a significant shortfall as well.
And that is what, 387?
If we, that doesn't anticipate, yes, that doesn't anticipate doing anything, which is probably not an acceptable outcome as of today, but I wanted you to see the raw numbers of what it looked like with no concessions, no reduction in police force, none of those things that are being suggested. That's just a status quo budget.
And are we accruing? And I don't think I spoke with Louise last night, so I think I know the answer. But we're not accruing the potential for the unemployment charges that we may receive from the laid-off employees as they extend past this fiscal year.
Right, that would be.
Which we should actually pull into this year, right?
Because this is a budget, so you're only budgeting your expenditure to June of next year. If there's any subsequent unemployment insurance, it will be reflected in the 213 budget.
On a cash flow basis, but,
Yes.
but we should, if it was a company, we'd be writing it off this year.
Depend on, whether it's measurable or not, because you don't know whether the employee is going to find a new job.
Yeah, I know, but you accrue for it.
If you want to be conservative, yeah, that may be.
Okay. So that's about $300,000.
So this number shows 391 here, right? Is that the right?
You got
Deficiency of revenues over expenditures, that's the
it's 387, 365. You look at page 3, and the third column to your right,
Wasn't this number 800 and something the last time we met?
where the finance
Correct.
committee saw that.
855.
What did we change to get it down by 400,000?
She told me that last night.
Okay, because
Remember, we reorganized.
I know you did, but I don't see,
She's like-
the 211 and the 92, are those the two changes? With the city attorney and the administrative department?
I think maybe, depending on what the committee like, maybe we can go through each of the department's budget.
Should
We
we
can
just,
highlight the difference.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful to just kind
let's
of,
do that then.
Okay,
Okay.
I think,
just in a summary form,
yeah,
hit each.
okay.
Yeah, and for it would be good if we could look at, the big change that we had in the budget was the head count and the associated costs with regards to labor. And I thought of this out last night after we spoke, so I'm not trying to surprise you. It would be nice if we could see, maybe for the presentation to the council, labor costs, and then the replacement of the subcontract costs, okay? So that we can see that change, and it would be shown that it would be...
Well, it's buried in here someplace.
Yes, I know, but you gotta go through department by department. And so I'd like to see, a top-level roll-up,
Yeah,
labor costs, we can see that, labor costs we had 50-some-odd employees, and now we're down to projecting 35. Okay, so the labor cost is going to go down with the cost and the benefits, and it's being replaced by anticipated costs associated with our building contract and also our, okay?
absolutely.
The only thing I would caution you, and I think that's a good idea, because it is 6 months, you don't get the benefit of the full year, and it's a transitional. We're still really at the very, very beginnings of the transition, so it makes it a little bit complicated to go through there. When particularly say in the building department, where one would think that we immediately should start showing benefit, well, there are dozens and dozens of plans that are in process that money's been collected, and we're already running a negative return. So those positive, well, getting back up to a net even is going to take some time transitionally. So it's a little bit muddled in this budget.
No, and I agree with you. And then there are costs associated with the attrition of the employees. So we need to show that and break that out. But we can see it wasn't in the old budget. We made some changes, and now we're seeing the costs associated with those changes and the projection moving forward. And a roll up, because this is 53 pages, and it's very difficult to piece everything together across 53 pages. And there's stuff that's in one department, and then, you say, well, how about this? Louise and I talked for about an hour yesterday, and I said, well, where is this? And she says, oh, this is parts of it's over here, parts of it's over here. And the thing is, but they're all related. So it'd be nice if they could all be on a roll-up, so that we could see that, and then.
I think the only thing I would say is that during the transition period, especially because of the court TRO, we had double charges. I mean, we had people not coming in here, and we had to go out and hire contractors so we could get the work done. So it might be a good idea, Bill, if we could just wait until things settle down a little bit and then put them together. I have no problem with what you're doing. I think it'd be good. But I think if we look at the present numbers, they're not really going to show it properly.
When John was going to go through it department by department, I'd like to listen to that.
So could we have a top-level roll-up?
Yeah.
Also on the health and pensions? There are pieces all over the place.
Because this is really just a work paper.
Yeah.
Then the product should be the roll-up, and I didn't have enough time to do the roll-up. But it should have, instead of by department, the expenditure should also turn into expenditure by type.
Yeah.
Like wages, benefit, professional services,
Yeah, right.
supplies, and all that.
Good. Yeah, great.
Well, let's just go by just a synopsis, department by department.
Is the committee ready to go through? Okay. On your first, I'm going to just go through not every single.
No, just go through the summary. You don't have to go through the detail. I'm just, the top page, where you
Okay.
show the adjusted, adopted budget, and then you show the revised budget by department. I'd like to just, a general explanation of each department, what the changes were.
Okay.
Well, I have another question, which is about the special partial tax fund. Is the total fund is larger than 1,160,000?
Yeah, 1,116,000 is only 60%.
That's the 60%.
Right.
And where did the 40%? Where did the 40%?
The other 40% is in the CIP budget.
What's CIP?
Capital improvement.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
For road and street.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
So to go through, maybe we can, like Alan said, like Greg mentioned, when we look at the first page 2 and page 3, if you look at the only significant changes in here is the secure overall property tax. On the secure, we are increasing, instead of using a 1% projection, we are using about close to 2%, but the net result is 1.5 because we have to figure out the portion that we have to refund to Genentech. The other revenue pretty much stayed the same. There's some movement to adjust it up and down. The only thing that I would want to point out in revenue that is significant is the PARK program revenue. Originally, when the council adopted the 2012 budget, we projected $241,000 in PARK program revenue. This revised budget has dropped the revenue significantly down to $96,000. So that is really the significant change in revenue side.
So what is the adopted budget?
The adopted budget is the budget that was adopted by the council in June for this fiscal year.
Yeah, but those were just departmental targets, waiting for updates
Right.
in September, which.
Okay.
Right.
And so if you look at the second page, it's saying that total operating revenue, this changes and the revision, the net effect is we're increasing to total operating revenue by 29,300. After we adjust for some property-related income up and reduce the program revenue down, so the net increase to revenue with this revision again is 29,300.
So we're $1 million short.
We are
Short with the
a
last year.
million.
Yeah.
A million short is actually in terms of the comparison between the 2 years. Yes, because the building work department have a good year in 2011, and then we are not. In 2011, we're also picking up some one-time income like C&D, forfeiture, and all that. But in this projection, yes, the 2012 projected revenue compared to 2011 actually reduced by $1,093,000.
So on the building permit fees,
Yes.
is that the total, or is that is that the percentage that we're anticipating?
This is the total.
The total. So,
Yeah,
so then you took the percentage out as the cost.
yeah,
later
in the
on.
building department's budget.
Okay.
Right, and again, the $977,000 building revenue are not being revised because Inner West also requests for this number to stay as is for now, since they need to have a chance to gauge where the revenue and the operation, so this remain the same.
Well, I think we need to make it what we think it be is not what a subcontractor is asking us to do.
But they are the one that have, yeah, one of the department.
Well, we should
that
base
have
it based
experience.
on what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Not, I
Are
mean,
we going
seriously.
to go on to the departments?
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to go. Are we done with the revenue side? Any further?
Well, I'm
questions?
not sure why those fees went down to 145,000, but I guess it's,
145.
you know, the social fees, the meeting fees, and the
Oh.
weddings.
Because we are no longer accepting, at this point, I believe, we're no longer accepting booking for next fiscal year. Next calendar year, this is projecting income to the end of this year, and maybe the city manager can.
And that was the council decision.
Well, I presented that to council without objection because it was not knowing what might happen in the park next year. We thought it would be best to not accept wedding reservations for the 2012 wedding season, because they didn't want to have to cancel it should there be changes. I'll wait council direction on. We're still taking business reservations. We've actually totally changed the way we do weddings now, and we go from we're no longer lose money on weddings. We'll actually make money on weddings. We're actually starting to do that now. But the uncertainty of knowing what's going on with potential construction in the park makes it iffy as to whether or not we should continue to take. And I'll look for direction from council on what they want me to do on that. Should we open it up to?
There's a whole series of strategic moves needed, and this is not a decision that we in the finance committee can make. But for instance, we had somewhere in the region of 500 to 800 Google employees in the park not too long ago, and that commitment had been made by a previous park director, for which we charged them $1,000. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I personally think that to have that number in the park, taking up every parking space, is probably not a good idea. And on Sunday, we had a memorial service there for a little girl that died, and every parking spot was taken. And there's a problem with this, and I think the council has to look at it. I brought it up last night to the foundation, the HBP Foundation. There was a meeting last night, and the Park and Rec Committee is going to look at it and determine what we should do. Because in the past, we've never really made any money on park revenues because most people don't recognize the substantial costs involved. So there are some decisions the council has to make once, and I hope the Park and Rec Committee can come up with something which they can bring to the council so that we can look at it.
All right. I'm sorry, let's go on.
Okay, now we are going to move into operating expenditure, and you can see the revised budget by department compared with the adopted budget. And I will just highlight the major changes or information that you may want to No, as a city council department, if you want to look at the detail is on page 5. And in this department, we are currently for this revised budget looking at 5 new chairs for the city council, since those chairs need to be replaced, and also possibility of giving council iPad for the meeting, so that on this electronic age and trying to save papers. Okay?
Okay, it's fine.
Okay, next department is administration. Administration, this, because right now we have an interim city manager and a lot of things are still reorganization going on. So we showed reduction in salary and contracting costs going up. And I would think that it will be, maybe I should turn this over to the city manager to explain the department.
In administration? Well,
Why
what
not?
would you like to know?
Why not?
Well, one of the things that I see is missing from here is that in the administration, I assume that that's running the front office, right? The front office, and because we're taking money, we go over this every time I look at the check register and I see that we have an armored car coming, picking up 20 cents from us because, we have the crash in the front, okay? So we pay $150 a month or more to have the armored car come. I think it comes twice a month, actually. So it's $100. So, but I don't see where that's covered in here.
It's in finance,
It's in finance.
yes. Because it's a
sorry.
finance-related function.
And by the way, we should probably, there's a bit of an urban myth about that. On the surface, one would think that is kind of a preposterous expense to make, to have someone pick up and deliver relatively small amounts of money. If you look at what the alternatives cost, it actually is probably a bargain, and I hate to say it. It's on several levels. One of them is there's cash handling, which we would then defer to an employee who's neither licensed or prepared or should be handling cash. So the alternative is to give it to a law enforcement officer, and then it gets to be really expensive.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they pick up and deliver change. So not only does we send the post office receipts out, along with others, they also bring change back in. And we really can't figure out a less expensive way that doesn't involve a lot of potential risk. I mean, for a while there, we were having a secretary pick up cash and deliver, bring change back. And there's it's fraught with all kinds of liabilities in there. So if we're going to continue to do the post office and take cash receipts in, then if there's a better way to do this than the $150 a month, I'm all ears.
Okay, but how many people, you gave me some statistics, how many people from Atherton use it versus the total population? Most of it is what you told me, Redwood City and...
You mean, are you talking about usage of the post office?
Yeah, Redwood City and Menlo Park is the majority of the people that are using the post office.
Oh, I don't know.
I've been keeping some statistics.
Yeah,
Oh.
I've seen some of those, and, this business of putting in machines rather than a person in the post office has been proposed. We've got to be careful because, I just assume not pick any battle. I mean, I'm very happy to pick battles that I think are really important to the town. Until we get a few more things straightened out, I just assume not pick too many other battles. And there is, for some reason, a lot of the residents have a love of that post office. And,
All right.
we're doing a lot of other things. And I mean, down the road, I agree, but as I say, I'd like to choose my battles.
I know Pat uses the post office, I've seen her there.
Can we go through the major changes in the administration?
Sure,
The ones over 25,000?
sure. The one that's over 25,000, if you look at page 5,
Or how about page 6?
page 6, yes. If you look at the decrease and increase over 5 years actual kind, it will kind of give you an idea what are the significant change between